Hello everyone, JWhisp here, and I hope you are all having an amazing day, because today we are taking a huge nostalgic trip back through all the levels of the Ice School, because today I will be picking my top 10 favorite ice spells in the entire game, just to show you guys, so I hope you enjoy, and without further ado, here we go. Alright, so number 10 is a classic ice spell, used a lot in PvP, not really used in PvE, which is Freeze. I chose Freeze as number 10 just because, you know, I'm a huge sucker for low-level PvP. I love it, and Freeze is one of the most useful spells that you can use as an ice wizard. And also, you know, Freeze is all about what ice is about. Ice is all about stunning your enemies and taunting them, and just tankiness, so it goes along with ice. It fits ice very well, and it's a great spell. That's why Freeze is number 10. Alright, so for number 9, the spell I am choosing is Evil Snowman. Evil Snowman is on this list because if you honestly just look at the spell animation, I know it's used in one of the new like pig spells, but you know what, it's such a classic ice spell. It's one of the defining ice spells, I think, because it's a spell you get very early in the game, and for only 3 pips it does a decent amount of damage, and it has an awesome animation, and I think it is definitely a worthwhile spell, and that is why Snowman for me is my number 9 favorite ice spell. It is just awesome. Alright, so number 8 on my list is a little bit of a different spell. This isn't an attack spell, but actually a shield, which is Volcano Shield. The reason I chose Volcano Shield for this slot is not because, you know, it looks cool, but because I think it is one of the most useful shields in the game, considering that Storm and Ice are the 2 hardest hitting schools in the game. It is a very useful shield, and the fact that you get it early on definitely helps later in the game. Alright, so number 7 on my list is Ice Guardian, and Ice Guardian is the only minion spell I have on this list, but I think Ice Guardian deserves a lot more credit than it gets. There's a reason why Ice Guardian has been used so much in lower level PvP in the last few months, and that's because Ice Guardian is an absolute beast. It's definitely helpful because it uses Ice Blade a lot, which is a 40% blade. Who the heck doesn't want a 40% blade? But not just, you know, aside from that, it has spells like Ice Trap, but also very useful spells. I believe it's Snow or Ice Cat, and then Ice Bats and Snow Shark. Spells that belong to other schools but are transformed into ice. So they're ice spells that do a lot of damage for very little pips. And it's kind of a hardier Guardian too, even though it only has 400 health. When you first get the Guardian, 400 health is plenty, and the Guardian will last you a long time. It's great in PvE, it's great in PvP, and it's a freaking Colossus. It's epic looking, so who doesn't love the Ice Guardian? That's why he's on this list. Alright, so number 6 on my list is Frostbite, and Frostbite gets a lot of credit already, so I don't think it's a surprise that it's on this list. It's not on this list because it's the coolest looking spell. It's on this list because it's a useful spell. It's an overtime damage spell, which Ice doesn't get many of, so when you finally get Frostbite, it's definitely worth it in PvP. And this is another spell that, as I was saying, is used a lot in lower level PvP, just because it is such a great spell, especially once you enchant it and put a few blades on it. It can do some serious damage, and also, you know, Frostbite, I don't know, it has a somewhat cool animation, but aside from that, it's just an overall great spell to have in your deck. Alright, number 5 is kind of 2 spells, Ice Armor and Frozen Armor, but for this one I'm specifically talking about Frozen Armor just because it gives you more protection per pip. I think this can be one of the most useful spells in PvP or PvE if you are in a tight situation. I don't use this spell too often, but if you were ever in a situation where you have very low health in PvP or PvE, and you know, you just need to whip out a quick shield or else you're going to die, Frozen Armor is definitely the way to go. If you have full power pips and pop on a Frozen Armor, any enemy you're facing in PvP is going to be stressed out, and any enemy in PvE is going to take a while to kill you. So that's why this is number 5 on this list, because this is overall just a very useful spell, and it looks pretty cool too. Alright, so I can't really demonstrate number 4 against an enemy, so I'm just going to talk about it. And that spell is Steel Ward. For only 2 pips, you can steal any shield from any enemy and give it to yourself. And I think that is definitely a useful spell, because I know I have more than once been in a situation where someone in PvP will use a spell like Frozen Armor, like I just explained, or use the Tower Shield, and if I try to get rid of that shield, it'll just get rid of all the blades and pierces I have on already, and I don't want to waste those. So a great way to get through that is by using Steel Ward. Definitely worth the 2 pips. The only thing you have to watch out for is it's only 80% accuracy, not 100%. But usually if you are a higher level ice wizard, you have some sort of accuracy from your gear anyways. So you should be good, but that's why Steel Ward is number 4 on this list. Definitely a very useful spell to have in your deck at all times. Alright, so number 3 on this list is the spell Frost Giant. Such a classic and recognizable ice spell. So number 3 on this list is Frost Giant, and there is a reason that Frost Giant is number 3 on this list. Frost Giant is such a powerful and strong spell. Not only does it do a great amount of damage, but it also stuns every enemy that it hits. And that is definitely a worthwhile spell. And not to mention, the animation for the spell is amazing. Frost Giant I have been using all the time. Once you hit 48, it is such a useful spell. Useful in 2v2, 3v3, 4v4, PvE or PvP. Definitely a spell you should have. If you have a few blades and a few enchants on that, well, an enchant on that, it is definitely a spell to fear with that stun in the end. That's why Frost Giant is number 3. Alright, so we're getting close to number 1, but first number 2. And number 2 is a spell used by all PvPers, and that is Tower Shield. Tower Shield is probably the most important shield in the game and the most useful shield in the game. It's one of the only shields that really work against the School of Balance besides an Absorb, and it's a great shield to have for anyone. It only is a 50% shield versus other 70, 75, and 80% shields, but the 50% is definitely worth it, especially in PvP, when you aren't always sure what kind of attack, what school attack your enemy is using. You know, they could be balanced, but they could have a Myth Master and use a Myth spell. So it's a great spell to have, especially in PvP. I even carry it in my PvE deck sometimes. It's great to put on allies, and it's great to put on yourself. And you don't have to switch out shields between different battles depending on who you're fighting. You can always just use Tower Shield. So that's why Tower Shield is my number 2 spell. Alright, so here we are. My number 1 favorite ice spell in all of Wizard101. Woolly Mammoth. Not only is this my favorite spell animation for any spell, but it also does a great amount of damage and also has that amazing stun that we were talking about earlier. So let's take a moment and just watch it. Just look at that mammoth in all its glory. You think it's going to be an evil snowman at first, but it is a giant, powerful mammoth. Mammoth is such a powerful spell in PvP and in PvE. It is definitely great for taking down bosses and other wizards, and it's just an overall great spell. But anyways, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this top 10. If you want to see more like this, please leave a like and comment and tell me what you think. You know, if you thought this video was horrible, be honest. If you thought this video was great, be honest. And I also want to hear if you guys agreed with my list. Do you think my list was pretty accurate with what you guys would say is your top 10 favorite ice spells? Do you guys have spells I missed, or do you guys totally disagree with me? You know, you could have a totally different list, but this is just my favorite and top 10 ice spells, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching.